Let me just tell you about me.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to answer this.
I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel. I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together at this table, right? And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in, and it's not
Even
because
in the White House.
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think you worked for George W. or Trump.
Well, guess wasn't what happened when I was there. DEI.
Scott.
Look.
CNN once called themselves the most trusted name in news, and it slowly regressed into just The View in Suits. As this lady complaining about being the least paid person in every institution she's worked at has her suggesting that both the Democrat Party and CNN are racist. And either that's true and DEI is actually a tool for them to bring in cheaper labor, or these companies are the opposite of oppressors, and the common denominator is that she's just not that skilled, and her paychecks across all industries is proof of that. But the saddest part about all of this is CNN constantly runs variations of this stupid segment with different women.
It's about making sure that there is white supremacy in this country. And if we're honest, we will say that. It is about making sure we will make sure that people who DEI is really all these code words. You used to use woke. I asked you to define what woke meant. You couldn't really define it for me. Tell me what it means again.
Woke ideology is taking extreme views of American culture and trying to tear down America from the inside out and go outside of our cultural norms and invade every corporation, university, and other institutions.
What is DEI?
That's incorrect.
Tell me that's incorrect. But what is DEI? Tell me again.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, and trying to guarantee outcomes instead of guarantee opportunity.
Trump's cabinet looks like DEI.
I was speaking, and I could just.
This was rejected in the election. Democrats ran this was the animating thing of the Harris campaign, and it was rejected.
Was it?
And I am constantly shocked at what you're not aware of, which is Donald Trump's performance.
I'm constantly shocked with what you're not aware of.
I don't know. I tend to be more right about it than you are. But the reality is, he did better. He did better among minority voters than any Republican in a half a century.
Yeah,
I seem to be totally unaware of
it. But it's also true.
But if you're going to come out and call half the country a white supremacist, I think you've got to explain it.
I didn't say the country. I said this was about white supremacy, because what he ran on was making America great again, which is another code word. You like to say woke.
But you're saying the election was about.
But I'm saying it was. I'm saying what Trump was about was making sure he stays back.
It's not even.
She thinks she has this gotcha moment on asking him a question about defining wokeness, but once he starts accurately articulating what wokeness is and why it's trash, you can literally see her soul leaving her body. The so-called most trusted name in news is now just shrieking banshees, asking questions they can't handle the answers to, and their only point of evidence is anecdotes and their feelings. Because I honestly think they brought on the conservative in Scott Jennings to serve as a political punching bag, so they can feign being fair and balanced and have him bring up Republican counterpoints just so they can shout him down before he can explain. But all this really does is show their audience how shallow their arguments are and give them an introduction to why the Democrats have gone off the deep end, as when he does have an opportunity to speak, it's pretty based.
This is radical transparency on these USAID grants and other parts of the government that typically operate in an opaque fashion. And plenty of law degrees here. I'll give you the political view. The American people elected Donald Trump because they thought he was going to be a sledgehammer against this government and against the out-of-control bureaucracy, and Elon Musk is the instrument of the destruction. And there is nothing bad about the politics of this right now, about going through the government and reporting to the American people, did you know your money's going here? Did you know your money's going there? It's all upside for Trump.
As Jennings is just speaking on how the Democrats are absolutely freaking out about Elon auditing their spending, as the only people arguing against transparency in government waste are the ones with something to hide. All these Democrats pretend to want to protect USAID as it's supposed to be aiding these countries around the world, but if they really cared about that money and someone discovered it was being misused and basically stolen by shady organizations, the Democrats should be cheering Elon on, as it would be saving that aid money they're so protective over. The only reason they would be against this audit is because they're about to be exposed, as the more they're enraged, the guiltier they appear. And in CNN's effort to promote the liberal agenda and bringing in Scott Jennings to yell at, they're actually red-pilling what little audience they have left. Because unlike the useful idiots on CNN reciting their NPC talking points, the actual viewer is still an American taxpayer. And when they hear Jennings talk about transparency and tax dollars, they don't align themselves with the elites taking a slice of that USAID spending. They align themselves with the people they're stealing from to pay those million-dollar salaries for things like DEI musicals in Ireland, to which this kind of government spending has been an issue since the 1980s.
You know, sometimes the big spenders in Congress talk as if all that money they spend just kind of magically appears on their doorstep, a gift from the Internal Revenue Service. They talk as if spending were all giving and no taking. Well, there is no magic money machine. Every dollar the government spends comes out of your pockets. Every dollar the government gives to someone has to first be taken away from someone else. So it's our moral duty to make sure that we can justify every one of your tax dollars, that we spend them wisely and carefully, and just as important, fairly. Unfortunately, hardly anyone could honestly call federal budgets wise, careful, or fair. Is it fair to ask one small business to help subsidize its competitors? Is it fair to ask workers in the private economy to pay for civil service pensions that are much more generous than the retirement benefits they receive? Is it fair to ask low-income families to help pay for the college education of children from families with incomes as high as $100,000 a year? Is it fair to ask taxpayers to help pay billions for export subsidies to a handful of America's biggest corporations? Well, it isn't fair, and you know it. But that's the law of the land right now, just part of the legacy of 50 years of trying to do good things for all by treating your earnings like government property. The time has come to decide what benefits we can properly expect from the federal government for ourselves, our neighbors, and those in need, and what government can take from us in taxes without making everyone worse off, including those who need our help. The one thing we cannot do is stay on the immoral, dead-end course of deficit spending.
And it's amazing how it took us nearly half a century to finally get around to fixing this issue, which makes you wonder how many trillions of our tax dollars have gone down that drain to enrich a few chosen politicians and their friends. But at least in the process, these Democrat by default types finally realized the so-called party of the working class is more worried about you discovering how their money is being stolen than the fact that that money is being stolen. So if you appreciate my concise, light-hearted commentary on the tragic status that is today's reality, hopefully I've earned your subscription and we can chat again soon.